All right, so the first thing we did was lay out the two cabinets that we're gonna be using for this island. Now, obviously this is a fairly small kitchen, so we wanted to have a couple extra cabinets in the island. And we've got our waste bin here and then a set of drawers there. Now, the other thing we needed to do was lay out how big we can make our island. Now, this house is fairly small and we don't really have a dining area, so we wanted a place that you could pull up some bar stools to and kind of act as a dining table, and that's why we integrated that into the island itself. After I got everything laid out and made sure we had our correct spacings from our cabinets so we had enough room to walk around the island, I then went ahead and traced out the cabinets and where this little wall was gonna go and cut the floor out. And the reason I did that is because this is an LVP floor and it's a floating floor, meaning that it actually will expand and contract with the seasons. So it needs to be able to move. And if I were to set this island right on top of it and pin it down, it could cause some buckling in the floor over time and as the seasons change. So we got the floor cut out, mounted the cabinets, installed this wall. And one thing that you'll notice is that this wall does not come the full length of the cabinets. And that is just more or less for a design aesthetic. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be using this paneling, and this is actually from Osborne Wood, and we're gonna be kind of rounding these corners over. So that's just kind of the look we're going for, and we'll see if we can actually make it happen and make it look good. Now, like I said, this is from Osborne Wood as well as the legs. These are the legs. And what we went with for the legs was actually, this has a two-sided taper. So this corner is gonna be our outside corner. This is gonna be square, and then the inside of the leg is actually got a little taper to it. Now, one thing I love about Osborne Wood is they've got a ton of different products, especially table legs. And then this is the paneling that we chose from them. But not only do they have a ton of different options for looks, they also offer all those options in different wood types. Now, we went with a paint grade wood, so this is a poplar leg and poplar paneling. However, you could get it in oak or hickory or like all different types of species of wood if you were gonna be staining it and making it kind of whatever type of wood you wanted it to be. That being said, since we went with a paint grade option, the first thing we needed to do was also get everything painted up. So since this was bare wood, we went ahead and primed everything in our paint booth, and then we came back and put several coats of paint on the legs, the paneling, and any of the other pieces that we're gonna be using, like the aprons and stuff for the island. Now, the paint that we went with was a Benjamin Moore paint. It's got a little, it's like their Alclid or whatever. It's got a little urethane in the water-based paint, and that's just gonna add some durability, a lot of durability. It's a cabinet grade paint. So once we got this on here, everything looks good, and this is gonna be nice and durable. The finish should hold up a lot better than just a typical paint. All right, so what I'm gonna be doing now is, since we've got 3 legs at our corners, I am going to, the apron from this leg actually needs to die into this. And what I'm gonna do is I took a 5/4 board and I am going to mount that to the side of the cabinet, and that'll give us that faux leg look and just kind of be a nice little ending piece on the side of the cabinet. So I'm gonna start here, work out to this leg, and then kind of work my way around with the legs and the aprons and kind of just figure it out as I go. Now, the problem I'm having is that this piece of the face frame of the cabinet kind of overhangs a little bit. So I cut some spacers, and I think we'll end up just kind of mounting these like this. That way, then my paneling and everything will just kind of be out from the edge of the face of the cabinet, and should work out. Again, we'll see. Okay, so I've got this side done, and as you can see, we've got our laser level over here, and that is showing our reference line, which is nice and level across there. We just did some pocket hole screws, and then I actually attached the leg to the ground there. And the reason being is because I just know that these legs are gonna get kicked, and I don't really want them to move around on the floor. The other reason being is because I use this laser is like hitting me right in the face, but I use the attach point to actually drill a hole in the flooring and then put some spacers in there. Now, before I get to that, the next leg that I'm gonna work on is over here. Now, what my thought process is to start upside down so that I can figure out where the corner is gonna be. I've got my 1x4 cut that's gonna go up here. That's my apron. And I'm just going to give my reveal how I want here and get that nice and square. And then I'll just trace the outside corner of this. Now what I can do is I can flip this leg over and place it on that outside corner that I traced. Trace the inside of that because the bottom of this leg is a little different. And then I'm going to mark where I need to cut this leg off to make it level. Okay, so I've got that traced. Now we've just got to drill a hole through just the vinyl plank, and then I've got subfloor below there, 3/4 inch plywood, and we will anchor into that. I'll show you that in a minute. Whoa. Okay, so this is a hanger bolt, and this is going to go into the floor and into the bottom of the leg. That's gonna secure it in place and make sure that the bottom of the leg doesn't move around. Now, the problem is, like I said before, is we can't compress or put a whole bunch of weight on this floor. So we need to drill a hole, and then we use a stack of washers to space between the subfloor and the bottom of the leg. That's gonna fill up that gap between the vinyl plank and the bottom of the leg. So I need to find center. So what I do is I just take a straight edge and go from point to point and mark, basically drawing an X, and that's gonna give me the center of the leg. And then I'll do the same thing on the floor. And as you can see, I've got an X on the floor, and that'll be where I need to drill my hole. So I've got a 1-inch Forstner bit that I am going to drill through this vinyl plank flooring and hope to God that this is in the right spot. All right, so now I've got my pilot hole for the hanger bolt, and I will drill a pilot hole in the bottom of this leg. And then I just gotta get it started in the subfloor. And then I'm gonna put this stack of washers in here until it's right above the height of the floor. All right, so now I need to line this guy up. All right, so this is what we've ended up with, and I think it's turned out really good. We've got some support in here as well as across here. That's gonna be able to support our countertop, even in the middle, as well as all the way around the edges with the legs and whatnot. It's turned out good. I think the paint looks great, and overall, now the last step of the process is gonna be wrapping these cabinets with this. So this is that paneling that I was showing you earlier. This is painted up and it's a flexible paneling. So like I said, we're gonna try and round these corners like that. And I think that is gonna be unique and just very sharp looking. So we'll go ahead and start getting these all cut and put in place. And I think I'm gonna apply some glue to the back just so that it can grab onto this cabinet face as well as the front of that, and then just pin nail it in place. Those little pin nails are going to kind of disappear, and that'll allow me to not have to come back and fill and touch up paint like a larger brad nail would require. So we'll go ahead and get started on that and see how it goes. So this is definitely tight working space, but I kind of needed to have all of this in, especially this apron at the top, in order to measure and be able to figure out the lengths. But like I was saying with the pin nails, I'm gonna be using 3/4 inch pin nails, and these are tiny, but it'll be just enough to kind of hold everything in place. And then the glue that I'll be using for this is the heavy duty construction adhesive from DAP, and that will just go on the back of this panel. Just put a little S on there. This should fit right up in here. Just pin nail this in place. All right, next one. Let's see how the next one goes. Now, as you can see, this one I cut down. This isn't the full width of a panel, and the reason I did that was because as we get up on this corner, I really didn't want to joint right in the middle of the corner. So I cut this first one down so that we could get to that point and be able to wrap that full corner. Now, one of the issues that I have with this island is that this floor is not level, which is why I cut the legs to suit, and I used a laser level to do so, because from that corner to that corner, it's like almost an inch off. But even with this island, even with wrapping this, like all of these panels are slightly different. Now, luckily, this top edge up here is gonna be hidden for the most part. You won't be looking at that directly, so I'll be able to hide some of that. I just wanna keep this as flush as possible with the floor. But I think this is gonna come out really good. All right, now this one's gonna be a little trickier. So for this one, rather than putting the glue on the back of the panel, obviously I've got all these gaps. I'm just gonna put this glue on here. Now, off camera, I made these little rounded parts. I just kind of traced a radius onto some scrap wood that I had, and then I was able to secure that to this wall, and that's going to give me that radius that I need. Turned out pretty good. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is what I did with this corner, because this is kind of hard to paint inside of these things. So when we were spraying the corners, we actually kind of made them curl. That way we could get the paint in between these little dowels or fluting or whatever you want to call it as much as possible. So this is what I've been worried about. I went ahead and cut these all to length, and obviously all of these panels are gonna have to join up at some point, and I figured it probably wasn't gonna come out perfectly, but I didn't wanna really have to like rip one of these down. I wanted it to start nicely over there, and as well as the other side over in that corner there. So I just kind of started my way around here, and I figured on the corners right here, on one of these corners, I would be able to kind of play with this and get it close. So this panel right here, and I talked about cutting these panels down earlier, but as you can see, I'm gonna have to trim off that piece right there. So the way that you cut these panels down is you just use a utility knife. And what I do is I just kind of bend it over and cut this fabric right in the back of this. And then that comes off. But as you can see, this fabric is actually glued on here, so that holds everything together. So I feel pretty confident as far as like not having to nail every single dowel into this wall. I've got to get this to join up nicely. This panel's not glued in here. And then kind of get this to wrap this corner. So there's going to be a little play in this corner, which I'm not a big fan of, but I got to figure out a way to kind of fill that. I'm not sure what I want to do there. Maybe if I put enough nails and glue behind it, it should be okay. But I don't like that there's that much play in there. Well, we'll have to figure something out. All right, I'm gonna take these panels off and start nailing them in place, and we'll have to make it work some kind of way. Here's the fun part. The part that's been worrying me. So I'm just trying to stack this glue up on here as thick as I can. That way, when it dries, it will support anything that is not perfectly against it. Kind of acts as like a little liquid shim. Let's see how this works. I think that's actually pretty good. All right. Next step of the project is going to be installing some electrical under here. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. Now we just need to get this light up there. I'm gonna start by, I've already made sure the power's off. The way that I like to hang these things, I guess we gotta fish this through here first. So I don't know how most people do it, but I typically like to use this ground wire as kind of like my safety when I'm installing these things. So I'll actually tie the ground wire up and then I can work on this wiring, which is very straightforward, while the light hangs from the ground wire. Unfortunately, these screws have to go in first, so I've got to take this down. This is when a second set of hands is nice to have. So this is our kitchen island, and I think it turned out great. It's not only gonna be a great space for the family to sit up here and enjoy meals, but it's gonna be a great space to entertain. It's kind of a multi-purpose island with a little bit of storage, some seating to make up for the lack of space that we have down here. Now, obviously, I don't have the countertops installed yet. However, they are on order and they should be here in about 6 weeks. We've got a few more projects to do, as well as the hood over top of the range. And once we get those countertops installed, then we can work on backsplash and stuff like that. So once all that gets wrapped up, I'll make sure to put out an entire video of the kitchen renovation, makeover, whatever you want to call it, process. And if you guys want more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Until next time, be safe and happy building.